the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am super excited to have you on the show. And you're probably saying, who is this guy? Why me? I'm just a nice girl from Menlo Park in California, living my life in Italy. Why is he bothering me? Why does he want me on this show? Why at 5 o'clock at night do I have to do this on a Friday night? Well, we're gonna get into all of that in a second. So I'm super excited to have you on the show today because I'm doing a series. We have been, as you well know, coming from California and being close to America, you well know that we have been in some really crazy times here. And a lot of people are thinking of all sorts of resets, things that they dreamt about, they didn't do. They're recognizing that tomorrow is not promised. And the container, let's call it, of living in America in the way that they saw it is no longer the same. And I really think that as an expat living in Italy, you can offer some of our American listeners who are going through some tough times, whether it's witnessing the storming of the Capitol, riots in the streets, or anything else, maybe some perspective. So that's the reason why I wanted you on the show. And there are a lot of expats to choose from, and you're the one I chose because I have a fondness for Italy, which we can get into. But really, the work that you're doing is really stellar in that area. So, okay, that's the background. Let's start from the beginning. What's a girl from Menlo Park, California, with perfect weather and beaches? I mean, look, I live in LA right now, so yeah. It is a little bit of communist China here for a lot of reasons. But you can't, as the song goes, I wish they can all be California girls. Nobody says I wish they can, all be New Jersey girls. There's a reason. There's a reason why, right? So California's beautiful. But what's a nice girl like you living in Livorno, Italy?
Well, this is a question I get all the time from Italians. A lot of the times Americans think, oh, Italy's so incredible. And then, you're here and the Italians are looking at you going, what is wrong with you? Why did you leave the US in general? And then when I say I'm from California, they're just basically horrified that I left. But I guess the grass is always greener on the other side. I originally came to Rome for a study abroad semester. And I kind of chose Italy a little bit randomly. It was between Italy and Ghana, of all places. I don't know. It came down to those two.
Ghana?
Yeah. The normal choice.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm going to make a bad joke about Ghana. I can't, because somebody listening is from Ghana and I should have no business talking bad about Ghana. So continue.
Well, I decided on Italy because I had always wanted to learn Italian. My college didn't have Italian courses and I loved art history. And I thought, okay, a semester in Italy, let's do this. And I fell in love with Rome in a way that I absolutely was not expecting. The same way that you fall in love with the person, where you can kind of explain some of it, but you can't explain all of it. And I just knew I needed to come back for a little bit of time. So my, great scheme was that I would come back for 1 year. Post-graduation, I graduated from university and I came to Italy for 1 year. And now that's been over 10 years because every single year was just not quite enough. I just felt like I needed to stay a little bit longer each time. And now I've ended up in Livorno in Tuscany, and it feels kind of like California, actually. So I feel like I've kind of come full circle in a weird way.
All right, so let's stick a pin in that. And by the way, I'm so impressed that you can roll your R's like that, because you didn't learn that in Menlo. You didn't learn that in California. So the fact that you can go Livorno is just beautiful. So let's rewind a little bit. I don't want to go too fast here. You, around 2010, take me back to Tacoma in Washington, where you were studying to be a writer. That's where you were doing your study abroad program. paint a picture for me of what that part of your life felt like for you at that time.
Well, I was in college, and I'd always known I was going to go to college, and I'd sort of had, schooling is kind of set up for you. You're going from one school to the next. You're going to go to university, you're going to graduate, and then what are you going to do? Is it going to be a master's degree? Are you going to get an internship? And I was sort of looking at the future post-college and thinking, I'm not liking what I see here. As you said, I studied literature because I've always been passionate about writing. And, when you tell people I want to be a writer, they kind of go, oh, okay, you're going to be a millionaire this way. And you're like, well, yeah, I didn't say I wanted to be a millionaire. I said I wanted to be a writer.
I want to be a writer,
Yeah, there wasn't really a place for that idea. And of course, you can make your way in the US. You do not have to leave it to make these dreams come true. But I did not feel personally that I could. And so I think there was a combination of not really wanting to stay in a place where I felt kind of trapped by the expectations of, I'm going to say society, which sounds so broad, but it's in all the little conversations you have with people that are, what job are you doing? How does that help your CV? Oh, so you want to go into this as a career? Everything around you is pushing you towards, aren't you climbing the ladder? And if you're not, why? What's wrong with you? What are you doing? And I just kind of wanted to escape that and be somewhere else. And then I happened to, be in Italy in a little bit of in a random way for my study abroad program, and just felt this connection to the country that I really wasn't expecting. And I thought, I'll go there.
Okay. So now you, not only do you have the connection to the country, but as many stories have, there was also a boy that was involved, right? So now you got an attraction to the country, you got an attraction to the boy, and one would figure that, and this is a judgment on my part, that you go there, you're involved in a relationship doesn't work, it's over. You might think, well, it was fun while it lasted. I love the Coliseum and cappuccinos in the morning, but I got to get back to real life. The boy's over. This dream is done. But that's not what happened. What happened was you said, I can't leave. Why?
I felt if I left, I would have failed.
Regret.
Yeah. There was more I needed to do in Italy. And again, at the end of every year, it was like just one more year, and then I'm going back, just one more, because I need to have this feeling. I couldn't, to myself, I really couldn't have this breakup that I had at year 2, I guess, with my, first Italian boyfriend. If I had just left at that time, it would have been, you broke up and you never really made it work there, and then you left. And I couldn't really live with that afterwards. And I didn't have any great thing to come back to. There was still the book to write, in my mind. It was like, I don't want to get back there, and I don't want to get into that job routine that I see all of my, friends that we're getting into. And so, each time was a decision just to stay a tiny bit longer. And that was the same.
There almost seems to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it almost seems to me like it's, even for a writer who is very good with words, it almost feels like you don't have the words to quite explain your passion and your love for your adopted country. Is that right?
Yes, I would absolutely say that's right. And that I have this conversation a lot with other Americans that have moved here, or just other foreigners that have moved here. And I don't think any of us can really explain it. And we sort of say things like, is beauty enough? Are we insane? What have we done? Why have we decided to come here? Actually, is it really just because Italy is so beautiful? And it's not clear. It's not. I started the sort of this blog to try to answer that question for myself, because I kept getting that question over and over. Why did you move? And it's not fully clear, I think, because a lot of it is emotional.
For sure. I was, I'm sure as a writer, you're familiar with Frances Mays, and, she just did an interview, and I'm going to read something to you, and I'd love your take on it. She literally just spit this out of her mouth. Do you know David Bach?
No.
Okay, so David Bach wrote a book. He's an American author who wrote a book, Automatic Millionaire. And he just moved to Florence. He's a pretty famous author, like New York Times bestseller 5 times. And he just moved to Florence. And so he is, he's been there for about a year and a half. Obviously, he moved during COVID. That's not fun. But he asked Frances about living in Italy, and this was her answer. I think one reason people come to Italy is to reset. There's something in the scale of life here that is just different from anywhere else I've ever been. There's a kind of human scale. When you go into the store, making conversation with people, you actually feel that you've almost made a friend. When you come out of the bookstore or any shop, contact here is human. It's personal. People are interested in you. They look you in the eye. There's an intimacy to life here that I just don't experience anywhere else. And I think it renews your sense of life. I think that's secretly why people respond so profoundly to Italy. It makes them feel reconnected with their own lives because the scale of the human interaction is so intimate. Now, she spit that out in an interview that I literally had my assistant transcribe for me because I wanted to read it to you to ask you what your take on that was.
I absolutely agree with that. I feel that the daily interactions that you have in Italy constantly remind you of what really matters in life. In a way that I wasn't feeling from the interactions I was having frequently in the US. So like I was mentioning earlier, that the questions were always, how does this help your career? How is this helping you climb the ladder to success? In Italy, it's like, what is that ladder? It's up to you. Do you feel happy? That's the ladder. Here, if you say, oh, I'm so tired because I worked so much this week, the answer isn't, I worked more. That's what maybe someone in the US might say frequently, to completely generalize. But here it's, why did you do that to yourself? That's not a good idea. You need to take a break. And you're constantly reminded of what really is important, slowing down, enjoying things, enjoying small things, incredible food, family, friends, community, the sunshine. I mean, it sounds so silly kind of to say, but it's reinforced by all of these small things around you, just from getting, a coffee in the bar, and you talk to your local bar guy every day. The bar being a cafe.
I know. I knew what you meant, but the first time I heard it, I was very confused. I was like, "This girl's going out and doing shots at 8 a.m." No, it's exactly. The bar in Italy is a cafe.
It's a cafe.
It's not silly, and I think that this is precisely why I wanted to have you on, because people right now they're reevaluating everything. If I go out to dinner as an American, the first cocktail party dinner, first thing they're going to say, what do you do for a living? They're going to judge the car I drive, the house I live in. They're going to make a quick assessment of how much money I have, et cetera. So particularly, guys for sure. But there is something in Italy, and perhaps it's, I was at a bar in Florence one night. We were up late, me and a buddy of mine, and the bartender was listening to the two of us talk, and we were talking about living in Italy, and so he chimed in, and so after the third Negroni, we were all just saying whatever we wanted to say. And he said in his broken Italian accent, he said, you Americans are like Britney Spears. And I said, Britney Spears? Why Britney Spears?
Of her phase.
Right. Exactly. I said, why Britney Spears? He said, because you're like a dumb teenager. You just don't know what you don't know yet. And he said, until you've had a tank roll through your streets for war, until the Nazis come in, until, if you you had 9/11, but short of that, you don't have anything. We're 2,000 years old. You're 200 years old. So you're babies. And for whatever the reason is, it really stuck with me that there's something genetically that is passed down through generations of what's important. And I think that Americans right now are searching for that. In fact, I know that this is the case because we are at an all-time high of people leaving America, like for the first time in the history of America. Right now, we're at this, all-time high. So, okay. Do you long for being back in the States, or do you feel that now at this point, this is your last stop, or you just don't know?
Well, I kind of always felt that I didn't want to go back. It was always kind of at the beginning it was, I'm just going to be here for a while and I'm going to go back. But I always was pushing that off and putting that off. And after a number of years, I kind of realized, no, I live here now. If I'm going to go somewhere else, it wouldn't be back to the States. But I feel at the moment that Italy is my home now. And I still feel, I'm always going to be an outsider here because I'm always going to be pronouncing something wrong or not getting the right word, or just coming from a different kind of mental space than the native Italians. But for now, I'm in Livorno. I'm with an incredible partner, and I've found kind of a dream job as a tour guide. So, a lot of the times in recent years, guests on my tours would ask me, okay, so when are you getting back to real life? Because I could see some of them were like very kind of concerned, like, okay, when are you coming back like to the fold? Like, okay, this is all nice, but just, and I was like, but I talk about art and history and I stand in front of like the masterpieces of Western art for work. Why would I be leaving this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, our preconceived notions about what it's like living abroad is so poor. I remember I went with my wife. We were in Italy and she was pregnant. And I remember my mom freaking out. She's like, what if something happens? I'm like, Mom, they've been having babies for 2,000 years.
They've got many methods.
Like, what are you talking? Like, we have this like view that, it's so bizarre. Okay. So I want to hit some low hanging fruit questions that I know people are going to want to know. And forgive me for asking these because you've been asked 10 billion times. But I'll try and see if I can get creative in how I ask them. You decided that you wanted to leave Rome and you moved to a seaside town in Tuscany, which I didn't know existed. And I feel like an idiot because I understand maps, but I just did not understand that the sea actually borders Tuscany as well. And as you mentioned,
because Tuscany is like rolling hills, Chianti, Florence, and people don't even realize that there's a coastline. Yeah.
We think of Francis May's Under the Tuscan Sun, rolling hills, and those trees. What are they called? Cypress.
The cypresses. Yeah.
Right. But that's not where you are. Or if they think of water, they may think of Puglia, they may think of the Amalfi Coast, but they definitely don't think of Tuscany, including me. What is it? Maybe you can describe, because you have the reference of California, now you have the reference of Livorno. What is a seaside town like in Tuscany?
Well, the first word that comes to mind is chill. especially coming from Rome, where, I absolutely love Rome, but it is a huge city. It's chaotic, it's crazy. Sure. Everyone is frustrated because they can't get anywhere on time because there's another strike and blah, blah, blah. And so you come to somewhere like Livorno and everyone's just like the nicest, most relaxed people. And I'm in Livorno specifically because my partner Luca is from Livorno. So he's Livornese. And so originally I was like, I want to be in Florence. I'm not sure about Livorno. And so we actually were planning to have an apartment in Livorno and one in Florence so that we could kind of go back and forth for work. And, then the whole pandemic thing happened and we had to give up the Florence apartment. And the silver lining of that was that I got to really experience Livorno this year because we weren't working at all. And all we were doing was going out every day to Livorno and, people are just dying to get into the sea here. And there's not a beach in Livorno. So there's not like, big sandy stretches, but there's these beautiful rocks that just go into the water and people are just like clinging and perched onto all of the rocks and swimming, and the food is incredible. And I'm like, okay, this is completely paradise. And there's no tourists here. There's like not even a tourist vibe. There's no souvenir shops. There's just Livornese, which is great.
If Luca wasn't Livornese and you had to do it again, would you do Florence or would you have chosen something like Livorno?
I would have chosen Florence, but I would have been wrong, if that makes sense. Because I was sort of like, I don't know Livorno, I haven't heard of it, but we'll just be here for a little bit. And because I was forced to stay here, I didn't dislike it or anything, but I just wasn't sure about it because I hadn't ever read anything about it or I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't visited it before really without him. And so I'm really grateful that I was kind of made to experience Livorno because I never would have found this incredible place because I would have just gone straight to Florence. That is much more well known, of course. But I feel Florence is, it's harder to find that authentic local feeling there because so many visitors come to Rome, but Rome is bigger and Florence is so small that the whole city center is kind of like part museum, part shopping center. The most beautiful place ever, of course. But I'm liking here the people for sure.
Do you believe you can't actually answer this with any level of authority, but do you believe that you were guided in this whole journey from a spiritual standpoint, or do you feel that this was a very intellectual decision? Because as I'm listening to you, I almost feel like you were thrown into a river and you were just like, you're just going down a river and like you're grabbing onto the rocks, but that shit's moving. Is that kind of how you see it as well?
Well, I guess I kind of, I guess this is a question I ask myself frequently, so I don't exactly have an answer, but I'm not sure if things happen for, I'm already doubting myself. I was going to say, I'm not sure if things happen for a reason, but after the fact, they feel like they do. So maybe they do.
Yeah,
maybe there is something pushing me in a certain direction that I didn't want to go. I mean, here's something. I often feel that, exactly the thing I'm afraid of and that I don't want to face, I am forced to face exactly that thing, not something similar to it, but exactly that thing. I always said I would never learn a foreign language. I mean, and here I am. I didn't want to have kids, and my partner Luca has a daughter. So now she's not my daughter, but she's in my life. So now a child is in my life in a way that I never would have expected. I never would have thought I would be a tour guide because I'm someone who's was actually so shy that it was like almost impossible for me to speak to other people, especially in high school. I would just my throat would just close. I couldn't even talk because I was so scared. And now I, speak to hundreds of people a year for a living, because I was kind of forced to do exactly that scary thing that made me grow.
Well, you'll be speaking to millions now with this podcast. So that's that things have changed quite a bit for you. So I'm going to ask you I'm going to give you my particular circumstance, and I'd love your take on it. And I think we could do something, sort of like in a real life, maybe even coaching way for people that are on the fence, about situations. So I'm living in Los Angeles in Hermosa Beach. And, it was a dream for me. I spent the last 25 years in Atlanta, and I wanted to get out of hazy, hot, humid weather. And I wanted to go into Southern California weather. So got out here. I was a chiropractor for 25 years and I retired. And, after I retired, I spent 4 months living in Florence. And it was magical. And our plan was to pack everything up in Atlanta. We did, put it in storage and fly to Florence, spend 4 months there. From Florence, find a place in Hermosa Beach, and then move from Florence to here, which we did. And so we've been here now for a year. COVID hit. And, everything's on lockdown. But thank God the beaches are open. And so I'm spending my days now if I look outside, it's 72 degrees, sunny, blue skies. It's perfect. And this afternoon, I'm going to go surfing. So I'm living the exact lifestyle that I wanted to live. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem.
But. There's a but.
Here's the problem. The problem is that in my particular case, when I get outside of the concept of 72 degrees, sunny, beaches, surfing, and a lot of freaking Mexican food that costs me $200 every time I go out for Mexican food.
That's right.
There isn't, well, it is, except it's kind of all there is. So after doing this every day, one would look at me and go, dude, what are you complaining about? Like, you're living at the beach, you're surfing, it's perfect weather, it's easy. And yet there has been a calling. We have a 6-year-old daughter. There has been a calling. When we were in Florence, we visited the International School of Florence there, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Mm. And it's a magnificent villa in Tuscany, and all these international kids are there. And so I'm like, do I want to put myself in a situation to move into the insanity of the bureaucracy of Italy, and have to like the thought of taking a driver's test, which I know you just recently did.
Gosh. Yes.
Sounds like I'd rather stick a needle in my eye, because they don't allow you to keep your driver's license.
Yeah.
So I look
start from zero.
I was, my wife and I have been married 15 years, but we got married in Positano by the mayor, ironically, of Positano, which, by the way, I thought was really fancy until I found out that after he married me, he went and became that evening, he was a waiter in the restaurant. So that's how impressed I was.
A little bit of everything. Always a hustle, even as the mayor.
Always a hustle, even as the mayor. But what we had to do to get married, you got to get the Marco di Bolo. You got to. It was like the amazing race running around Naples, and in Naples, like I can't even imagine. And in Naples. So when I look at all of this and I say, why am I putting myself through this? And yet I cannot get it out of my head. And every single time I watch a new special on TV, like I'm sure you've seen Stanley Tucci's Italian special on CNN. Every time I see it, there is a piece of me that is screaming to get back. So I'll wrap this part of it with this. A friend of mine who's a coach, he's a great coach. He said, I explained to him the story I just explained to you. He said, okay, so here's what I would ask you. I'm going to ask you a coaching legacy question. And I was like, okay, if you had 2 years left to live, would you live where you're living now, or would you live in Florence? And it was easy. And I would say it'd be Florence. There's no question about it. So what advice do you have to this knucklehead here to try and figure out what the hell to do with his life and his family? What would you tell him?
Well, I hear a lot of times, people saying, I wish I could move to Italy. I want to move to Italy. And I guess the first thing is it that you actually want to move to Italy, or do you want to escape where you are right now? And as you've just described, where you are right now is also paradise. So, you're not, you're not exactly choosing between, staying in your small town, wherever, and Italy.
No.
And of course,
I'm not in a cornfield in Nebraska.
Right?
I'm living a dream life, but it's like full stop. It's surfing, sun, beaches, easy, and it's over. When I was in Florence, it was, let's go to this wine bar. Let's look at the Duomo. Let's go to, let's go to a truffle festival. And, it was never ending depth.
Yes. And I feel this is, I'm sure, true if you leave your home country and go anywhere, but you are constantly challenged by the bureaucracy, the language, but you are constantly learning because of that. And that learning makes you feel more alive than you would otherwise, I guess. So I feel you're constantly growing. Things are constantly changing here because you have to learn a million tiny things every single day. Like, when are you supposed to eat that food? And whatever you do, some grandma is going to pop out from the corner and be like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're going to die. And you're like, why would I die doing this? Like the first year, just every time I never owned a blow dryer. I never dried my hair. That is like instant death in Italy. If you don't dry your hair, you're obviously about to die any second because the cold Pneumonia will touch you, instant death. So I was always going out with wet hair, and people were actually stopping me in the street and being like, are you okay? Like old women especially were just so concerned for me. So, whatever you do, it's going to be kind of wrong. So that can get you really down certain days. You're having a bad day. You're just trying to get to the end of it and not make a mess. And someone's like, you know what, you pronounced that word wrong. And you just want to kill that person, But then, the next day you go out and you say that word right. And someone says, wow, you have such good pronunciation. And you're like, I am the king of the entire world.
That is so good. That is such a great thing. I love that. And I got to talk to you about the neck thing. They can't have their neck. I go to Greece every year for a month. I go to Mykonos, and you could spot the Italians because when they're on scooters in 90 degrees, they look like Fellini wrapped around
scarf.
with, by the way, I don't know how they do the scarf. It looks like origami. I don't know how they do it the way they do it, but they're wrapped like a cake. It's
not
absolutely
one bit of air will touch your skin,
because you'll die. You're going to die.
You'll get very ill and possibly die. And you ask children, and every child is like, my friend's cousin's friend's sister died. And you're like,
died. It was really bad. Listen,
they did not.
Listen, you think COVID is going to kill you? You try and not wear a scarf today. You're going to die.
It's true. They're more concerned by the colpoiaria, the hit of air. If you don't
my God. That is so funny. Okay. You miss coffee, bacon, and eggs. What are some other things other than your standard American? By the way, if you had it, 3 days in a row, you'd puke and you'd never do it again because you've changed your whole constitution now. I'll tell you, when I was in Florence for 4 months, lost 15 pounds. I ate my ass off. I came back to America. I blew up in a month and ate less. What the hell is it? Fresh food.
Yes. This is exactly what happens to me every time I go back to visit, family in the US. I gain like 5 pounds, and then I come back here and I lose it all. Eating pasta, and pizza. So they're, okay. The food here is good for you. It's real food. But Yeah. What was the question? Where were we?
I don't. Oh, what I was bacon and eggs. What do you
Oh,
What do
yeah.
you miss? What do you
Yeah.
miss most about American? Well, let's broaden it from breakfast. What do you miss? Like really, truly miss? And it could be just a sweet It could be like an indulgent thing. But what is the thing like? That you haven't reconciled living in Italy, and you still like. I don't have that problem when I go to America, but I always have that problem. What do you miss?
Well, food is a big motivator for me in
Yep.
general.
Yep.
So the thing that comes to mind first is diners.
They're
I
fun.
miss diners, just the atmosphere of
Yep.
diners
Yep.
and all that breakfast food. I love all that breakfast food. And here they have cookies for breakfast. So it's not exactly, again, a hardship, but
Which is another mind fuck because they're 82 pounds and they have breakfast. It's a sugar bomb.
yeah. Just sugar and cake and cookies.
It's really, really strange. Okay, so you have a passion for writing and you have a passion for baking. What do you think those two things have in common for you?
Oh, I like this question. Well, it's kind of like slowly putting together little pieces to make something completely different. So I think, every time I write a story or anything creatively, you kind of start out with one idea and you're putting together different ideas and different styles. And what comes out of it is often different. So I guess with baking, you usually know what you're going to get to at the end of the day. Whereas with writing, you don't know. But it is about building something one piece at a time and having patience.
Who's your favorite writer and who's your favorite baker if you know one?
Oh gosh, this is like the ultimate impossible question.
Just one. I'm only giving you one chance. That's it. Who's if I had to give you one writer that you could say you get one and you have to sit with him or her and you could spend the day asking them questions and learning how to improve your writing, but you only get one, who would it be?
Okay. Well, I'll go with one from the last year because otherwise
it could be dead too.
Oh God. Okay. This is too hard, but the name that came to me was Murakami, and I've only read one book of his, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, but this book just blew up my brain basically because it's so fantastical and it's full of so many stories inside one story. And he just takes you to another world. You are no longer in this world. You're not in any world you've ever imagined before, but it's completely real, even though kind of magical things happen. And I have no idea how he's able to do it. So I would
basically he hijacks your brain when you read the book.
Yeah, you just go to another dimension. I felt when I was reading him.
All right, we're going to link that up in the show notes. So you were part of a series that in the research for this show I saw, which I think was, I don't remember the exact title, but it was something like how to move to Italy with Kylie Flavel. And she's done a great job of cinematography. It's probably one of the best.
She's incredible.
I mean, like, my God, she's just, she's a one-man band too. She's doing it all herself.
Completely.
Like it's pretty incredible. How did you two guys connect or girls connect?
We had like met each other writing for the same magazine in Rome, like very briefly. And then we had a friend in common many years later. And that's right. I was putting together a book club actually. And she, the friend we had in common said, can I also invite Kylie? And so she came to that, and that's how we met. And we were in Rome at that time. And then we both ended up moving to Florence, Tuscany area. And so then we started chatting more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's watching her work through the years and the evolution is really quite incredible. Like, where she is now, she's in a more of a, and for those of you listening, we'll link it up in the show notes. Her name is Kylie, Kyle Flavell, Flavell, maybe E, on YouTube. And she is she's in everything. She's a cinematographer, writer, there's 17 things that you'll want to add to her name. But she just creates pretty much now a weekly show about her and her relatively new-ish boyfriends living in Tuscany, and now they're renovating a chicken coop, which is really
exactly. I've been following,
which is really fascinating to watch. I never thought I'd actually enjoy watching chicken coop being renovated, but she
could make you enjoy watching like water being poured into a glass.
I always feel like I'm the most uninteresting person in the world when I watch her. We're going to take these old shoelaces and we're going to turn them into, what Bernini did with, like, it's just, it's like, incredible.
Okay, that's, you gotta be feeling good with yourself when you watch a Kylie video.
Okay, so I'm gonna wrap with a couple of questions that are going to be a little bit less about Italy and more about you, so that we can get to know you a little bit more. Because I find that when people get to know the person I'm interviewing, that's really where the connection happens, regardless of what the topic is that we're talking about. So, what's on your nightstand?
A pile of books that I'm reading.
Pile of books. What's on the top?
Underworld.
Is that like a dystopian thing?
Huge. No, it's by, oh my gosh, now I'm just completely blanking on like the name. Don DeLillo, one of my favorite writers.
Okay.
A huge book. So I'm slowly getting through that.
Little by little.
Yeah.
Are you thinking now in Italian or are you still thinking in English?
Thinking a combination, because there's certain words in Italian that are better than English. So it's mostly in English.
Are you speaking Spanglish with Luca, or are you guys doing one language or the other?
We do kind of English with smatterings of Italian here and there. And then when his daughter is with us, which is half the week, we speak Italian so that she's not feeling bad.
What do people often get wrong about you?
I think I have sometimes when people meet me, they mistake my shyness for arrogance. Because I often, in a group setting, I'm just kind of quiet and observing because I'm like kind of nervous, and but trying not to look nervous. So probably the result is that I look kind of like I'm judging from the outside and not participating, but I'm really just like trying to find my place to jump in.
That's such great self-awareness. I love that. What's an unusual or absurd thing that you love?
I love watching, this is really random, but we were just arguing about this the other day. I'm talking. I love watching movie trailers. Just like an hour long, just a stream of movie trailers. And then Luca will be like, please pick a freaking movie already. And I'm like, no, I just want to be in the pre-movie stage.
That absolutely falls squarely in the crosshairs of weird. So you like the inner worlds. You like that.
Exactly. Because then I'm like, I'm going to watch this later. But for now, I'm just going to watch a bunch of other, beginnings.
He died a few years ago. The guy who does, that guy, like In a World with Tom Cruise, you know what I mean? Like that thing, he died a few years ago and they've never been able to do it again. Are there any positions or opinions in the last few years, or it could be way back, it doesn't have to be in the last few years, that you've changed your mind substantially about, where you were like, I used to feel this way, but now I feel this way?
Well, I definitely used to feel that, like I used to think people should at least show that they're more put together than they might be. Like I didn't want to see a lot of emotion. I mean, this is a huge change because I think part of part of my upbringing was kind of like, you know, keep it together, keep it inside. Let's be professional here. And so I kind of felt that when I saw other people getting, you know, quote unquote, too emotional. And I would be like, you know, you don't have to let all of that out. And now I am just the complete opposite. Obviously, I'm a very emotional person if I moved to Italy. So I also had to kind of reconcile that in myself. You know, it's like, I was going to
say, you picked the wrong country to play that game.
Right. Also, like, this is not going to work. Right. And especially learning Italian, you cannot hide behind any cool subtleties in language, because all you can say is like, I need help with the thing, you know. And people, you know, just to get your point across, you can't be like, oh, it would be interesting if I knew how to do this. You know, you have to just say, help me, people. And,
I don't really like you. I don't really like
this. This is bad. You're like, oh, wow.
Language.
So I'm completely opposite now.
Language tricks for people. Is there any fast cuts to languages, or is it just immersion?
Immersion. Yeah. Unfortunately. Everyone always says, you know, find a significant other, to learn the language. But if you're like me, then you'll speak just English with them. So you'll
wait a minute. So this means I leave my wife and I get an Italian girl. Is that what happens?
Right. It also doesn't really, you know, work for everyone, as you can see. Don't tell her Lauren told you to do this.
I won't. All right. We're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
I think listening with a lot of empathy and non-judgment. I like to get to the deep issues. And so I hear a lot of the times, you know, like, I know I can tell you this because you'll understand.
It's good. You're a good listener. You are. Do you collect anything, or have you ever collected anything?
I have to say I collect books. Shocking, you know, for a writer, but like, it's like bordering on, you know, like an issue. Like if I feel kind of stressed, I just need to buy a book and then I feel fine again.
So your building is tipping over with the volume of books that you have.
We're just bursting with books here. They're all over. I even have books that I've left in Rome with friends that I'm like, I'm going to get these later. And they're like, whatever.
What do people never ask you, but you wish they did?
To I guess I could say to like, this is, I don't know, I don't want this to sound sad, but like to read more fiction that I've written, because, you know, I'm always working on short stories and fictional projects. And a part of that is my fault, because I don't really tell people a lot that I'm working on them, because I'm like always getting them ready. But I secretly am just like dying to share them with everyone. So maybe that's not a problem of other people. It's more me needing to be more upfront with what I love doing.
I've interviewed many, many, many authors, and they struggle with the marketing side of the book. They're really, really good at the creation side, but when it comes to promoting it, it's such a different skill set. But you got to do the circuit, right? You got to get it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, last question, we're going to change things up a little bit. What one question would you like to ask me?
When are you moving to Italy?
18 months. 18 months.
What's happening?
And well, let me tell you quickly how strange this whole thing is. So I'm going to take two weird parallels. So kind of like this falls into the it's a sign category. So one Sunday morning here in LA, I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, and they were interviewing this guy about, he's a lawyer living in Florence. And it was a story about how all expats are starting to move back to Italy, like second generation New York Italians are going back to Tuscany. It's just in one ear and out the other. And I thought it was an interesting piece. So during that 4 months that we were in Florence, a friend of mine, somebody that I met there, said, hey, I got to introduce you to a buddy of mine. You guys would really hit it off. He's a lawyer here in Florence. Didn't think twice about it. And so we connected. I went and I met him, and we sat and we started talking. I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a lawyer. I said, what kind of law do you practice? He said, well, I help people who have Italian ancestry move back to Italy. And I said, oh, I just saw something about that on CBS Sunday Morning. He said, oh, that was me. The camera crew was here a couple of months ago. And I went, hold on. And so I go on YouTube, I type it in, I looked, I was like, holy shit, that is you. That is so strange. Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop there. Second thing is I'm doing some research for this series, come across Kylie, come across you in the interview that we discussed here. Then as I'm watching, Kylie is interviewing him.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Now I hire him to become my lawyer to help me get to Italy. I haven't mentioned this, but my grandmother, great grandmother, is from Naples. So okay. My mother is Cecilia DeVito. So the ability for me to come there, we're working on by getting natural citizenship.
Yeah.
So all of these things are coming together in this weird sort of way. So the answer is 18 months. We have another year and a half left on this lease here. We applied to the International School of Florence. We're waiting for a response. We're trying to figure out how to get, our Peloton to Florence now. That's going to be the next thing. Do you know what I mean? Like all that shit.
Right. Exactly. All the details, but it's going to be amazing. I mean,
I'm super
nobody
excited.
Ever moves to Italy and then says, why did I do that?
Why did I do this? Well, listen, Lauren, this was even better than I thought it was going to be. Do you have any final suggestions or an ask for people that are listening?
Oh, suggestions like.
Oh, don't think too hard. Don't think too hard in the question. You're such an introspective writer.
I'm thinking too much. I've thought so much for an hour that now I'm just fried.
Yeah, I mean, really anything that you think that, someone should know who's in this stage where they're trying to figure out like I'm thinking about something else, but I'm just a little scared. I'm not sure. Like, what would you offer them?
I guess I would say, you don't have to drop everything, sell all your possessions and move to a foreign country to see if you like it. You can come for a summer. You can come for 3 months. That's how long the tourist visa lasts for. And you can see what is it about this move that is drawing me? And do I want to take the next step?
Do a little do a little test run to see, kick the tires, as it were.
And if you feel that, that like fire inside to return, like you obviously feel, then that's your answer.
Then go for it. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for this. We will link up everything in the show notes that you referenced, and we'll let you know when it's ready to put out into the universe.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rob. This has been great. And I can't wait to see you in Italy. You've got to let me know when you come.